video blog. My name's Mike. I host this channel, OBDM Videos. I also host a podcast, Our Big Dumb Mouth. You can check us out at ourbigdumbmouth.com. And in this video blog, I'm going to be talking about comic books, art, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, all that stuff. Just kind of rambling. I haven't done a vlog in quite a while, and figured, why not? Let's do it tonight. I'm not doing anything. I have the week off work, and I want to talk about some of the stuff I found in my parents' house in the basement. My stuff that I bought when I was in my, mid-teens. This is back in 1992, 1993, when I first got into comic books very heavily. It was I was probably a freshman, sophomore in high school, and every Friday, myself, my friend Mike, my friend Phil, and Nick, we would all go up to Kenmore Comics, and we would buy whatever comics that came out that day. And you always had the major players. You had DC that had stuff coming out every week, and then you had the Marvel. And I bought all those comics, and I loved them. Like, here's one that I got, the new Fantastic Four, featuring Spider-Man, Hulk, Ghost Rider, and Wolverine. Bought that. I loved all like the big players. And during that time period of the early 90s, a lot of the major comic book guys that were working for Marvel and DC, people like Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, and Todd McFarlane, they split off and they started their own company called Image. And Image put out Spawn, The Savage Dragon, Wildcats, Youngblood, and Rob Liefeld was the I guess the default spokesperson for Image at a certain point in time. The comic book that he put out, Youngblood, I think was the first #1 million selling comic book in history. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he also put out stuff like this, Blood Wolf. I mean, if you take a look through this, it's classic Rob Liefeld artwork, which, if anybody doesn't know, Rob Liefeld is known for exaggerated anatomy. He can't draw thumbs very well. And he draws women very subjectively in very suggestive poses. But I mean, if you look at it, there's some actual real cool art going on in here. And this comic book, Blood Wolf, #1, from my take of what he was trying to do in here, he was trying to capture a little bit of his character Deadpool, which was owned by Marvel, and a little bit of Cable. Lots of jokes, super all-powerful guy, and he just tried to reimagine those characters, some of the characters that he created over at Marvel at Image. And they did a lot of crossovers back then, too. Like, at least within the Marvel universe, there's like the X Factor and X-Men crossovers, the Executioner song back in like 92, 93. They cross over multiple different comic books, but usually within the same company. But I believe this Image Deathmate, it's called Deathmate. It's a glossy cover. You see how shiny it is. Deathmate was, I believe, an Image, and Valiant comic book company crossover. So Image Comics and Valiant Comics got together and said, hey, let's take our comic book characters and put them together and, write a nice story. And I guess it's okay. But look at some of this stuff. There's a character called Die Hard, and it's just really exaggerated. And look at that thumb. You see that Rob Liefeld thumb up there? It's curled over, and it's awful. Like, I like the guy. He gets a lot of shit online, but I do respect him and like him as an artist and a writer. Very fun stuff. I don't know if the stories, like looking back, and I've been trying to go back and read through some of the stuff, and I don't know if it's any good. It seems like it's a little mediocre at times, at least with some of this stuff. Not a very big fan of that stuff. But this is what was coming out every week. And so every Friday I'd be picking up more garbage. Not I guess I didn't have good taste at the time in comic books because I didn't know what was good and what wasn't. I bought the big names that were coming out. You usually could rely on Silvestri, definitely Jim Lee, all the stuff he did, and McFarlane. You could rely on those names, and they would crank out a good book. There'd be a good story, and you kind of knew what you were getting. But as I started to read more and more comics, I wanted something a little different, and I also started drawing comics myself. At the age of 13, I started doodling here and there, and I thought it was a nice way to pass the time. I had no expectations of doing comic books professionally because I just didn't think it was possible. I just doodled on my own, and I was kind of happy with that. And I wound up going to some comic book conventions, and I grew up in the Canton, Akron area. That's in Ohio, and there was a small comic book convention going on, and I forget who I went with, but I remember going there, and there were some local comic artists there that put out their own comic books locally. This wasn't a big name behind these guys. They were just out there doing it themselves. And the first, I think, major person, or the first local comic book that I picked up was this. This is called Gumbo, and you see he signed it at the bottom there. Aaron Archer, 1993. They even did like a little, right there. Did a little doodle for me. And if you look through it, it's this pure black and white. It actually is fairly reminiscent of like Bone. I don't know if you're familiar with the comic book Bone, but familiar, like kind of reminiscent of that in style. And he put out, Aaron Archer put out a couple different ash cans of Gumbo. I was a huge fan of his drawing style and the fact that he was a local person like me. He's some guy from Akron, a couple years older than me, and he was able to get it done. And then he finally put out a full-fledged comic book. And it's just absolutely amazing. This is a great cover. It looks fantastic. The story's good. It's got really dynamic, like black and white artwork. It's just everything that I wanted in a comic book was right here locally. It was done very well. I mean, if you take a look at like some of that black and white illustration right there of that monster running versus what Rob Liefeld did, like in Bloodwolf. I'll take the black and white version every fucking time. It looks better. It just, for whatever reason, it stuck with me, and I even got the issue 2 right there. It stuck with me, and when I met Aaron, he was very supportive. I would write letters to him like I'm a fucking fanboy. That's what you had to do back then. I don't think he had an email. I mean, back in 1992, 93, email was there, but I didn't know too much about it. And so you had to write letters the old-fashioned way. And he would give me recommendations on where to start. Like I told him, I'm into the cartooning. I like the idea. I want to create a comic book. And I think he gave me some supporting words of wisdom. And I tried to carry it through. I started drawing more and more. I would take my artwork and drawings to other comic book conventions and enter my artwork into contests, and I would lose because I'm not that good. I knew it. I knew I wasn't good, and I knew as soon as I entered the contest, as soon as I laid my artwork down, I knew just by looking at one or two of the other pieces up there, the other competitors, that I was not going to win. I didn't pull my artwork out. I let it go up there and be judged, and I lost all the time. I'm not like a strong, good, like comic book artist. I'm not. I just know I didn't have that natural knack of drawing gestural, really quick, explosive, kind of like dynamic characters like Aaron Archer or Liefeld, Jim Lee, or anybody like that. I just didn't have it, and I still like to draw. I still like to draw comic books for me, and I continued on to do that. At the same time, there were a couple of my friends, James and Matt. They started to get together and draw their own comic book, and they actually figured out how to put out one called City Nights, and it's black and white. And if you take a look through it, it's pretty interesting. It's cool. I was really proud of these guys for doing it. James Westbrooks, they're right down the street from me, instead of Matt. And so when they get together and draw, I would bug them and see what they're working on and try to annoy them enough to have them take a look at my work and give me suggestions. I think they put out one issue of this, just I think as a test run to see how it would go, and I was kind of blown away that they did that, and I was like, well, if they're gonna do it, if these guys down the street are gonna put out one, why the hell can't I? Why can't I put out my own comic book? It might be shit. So I didn't know how to, one, where to print the stuff. Two, how to even really properly ink a comic book. I had no idea. All I could do is emulate what I was seeing. Three, I had no idea about panels, if they should be a certain size. I didn't know about proper layout, word bubbles, if there was any sort of Illustrator tools, graphic design tools that I could use for shading. Was it just cross hatching or dots? I don't know. I just kind of like emulated what I saw on paper and hope and prayed for the best. And I produced. Let me have a drink for this. Ooh. I produced a comic book right here. Now, as you can tell, this is not a standard comic book, format. I think the standard format is like 11 or 8.5 by 11. This is like a square format. I didn't take the time to, do proper measurements or figure that out. And the title's horrible. It is called Guru, the Scottish Table Leg of Doom, with his buddy over here, Quinstib. And it's about an evil pair that gets sent to hell. One of which is a Scottish table leg of doom. And I had a good deal of fun drawing this. It's all black and white. It's all we could do back then. I mean, I got this printed at Kinko's, and I remember taking the big panels into Kinko's and explaining to them what I wanted. Let me take a look at the copyright date on this. I did do a copyright date because it was very important back then to copyright all your stuff. Yes, this is in 1993 at the very bottom there. So I was probably a freshman in high school, freshman or sophomore, and I kind of figured it out as I went along. I think I printed up like 20 of these. And I went over to my friend's house, another guy who Chris Seaman, who put out this comic, the Sorcerer's Chamber, and he put out this, and we were at the same age. I went over to show him that. He kind of, I don't know if he liked the artwork, but I think he appreciated my hard work that I put into it and my determination. And so, I mean, he was doing, some pretty good work at the time. This guy had a really strong sense of composition, layout, storytelling, which is something that I still trying to learn. But then he also had this giant intro. This inset, this big poster here was actually drawn by Aaron Archer, the guy who did the Gumbo comic book. But you could tell this guy knew what he was doing, and some really interesting stuff was going on, and this guy blew me away. I wound up going to art school with this guy, and I could tell, so when we were freshmen in art school, I looked at his stuff, and then I looked at my stuff. I was like, whoa, it felt the same way when I entered those art competitions at the comic book conventions. I felt as though I was going to lose automatically. I knew it. This guy from a very young age, was drawing and producing very high quality pieces of art, comic, storytelling, composition, everything. He knew it. I was a goddamn retard when it comes to drawing art and producing stuff. I can get things done. Obviously, I can produce something, but is it as good as this? No, it's not. I knew that. It's not, but I persevered and tried. Chris Seaman, he is a fairly renowned illustrator for Wizards of the West Coast. He does stuff for D&D, Magic the Gathering. He's a very, very good illustrator, and I'm very proud of him. I'm glad that he actually pursued art and is doing it full time and has been very successful. I don't feel bad that I'm not as good as him. I mean, I guess I do a little bit, but that's just a little raw natural talent can take you a long way. But if you don't have the drive to carry on, your talent ain't going to do shit. Chris is one of those rare people where he had the talent and the drive to actually get things done. Now, Aaron Archer, the guy who was the guy who did Gumbo, I believe once he got out of college, I believe that he started working for Mattel, the toy manufacturer, and I believe he is I think the lead toy designer over there. I know he worked on some of the Spawn stuff with McFarlane. I think he also designed some of the new Transformer series of toys. He became very successful. I don't think he's doing illustration or comic books anymore, but he's still involved in art and by producing toys for people. I think I'm like the only one that actually graduated from CCAD and did art for a little bit, and I have given it up, like doing professionally. I now work in IT. My main focus is Python and JavaScript and putting up websites and doing automated solutions and code deployments and server configurations. I only recently, like within the past 2 days, picked up a pen and pencil and started drawing cartoons again with no expectations of it being remotely good. I'm not like a horrible illustrator. I'm just not top tier. I know that. I have no illusions about that. And I knew when I graduated, and I graduated with a degree. Chris, the guy who did this comic book and the guy who works for Wizards of the West Coast, he was actually an illustration major in college. I was, what the term was, I was a time-based media studies major, meaning my focus was on hand-drawn animation, video editing, and interactive design. I was more of a computer nerd kind of guy, and I was always drawn to the more technical aspects of producing artwork rather than the more fine art qualities of it. I was not good at figure drawing at all. Sucked at it. Took it for 4 years. I could probably draw a figure, but I just didn't have that raw, natural ability to draw the figure. It was only probably within the past 10 years that I actually really started to understand color and color concepts. I'm a pretty dense individual when it comes to that kind of stuff. I like to learn. I just don't learn very quickly. Another person that was pretty influential in the Akron, Canton comic book scene, if you want to call it that, the comic book scene in Akron and Canton in the early 90s was Robert Cross, or Bob Cross. He put out, he had a comic book company called RAK Press, I believe, RAK Graphics, and he put out stuff like Thunder Mace. He also put out Shakan the Forever Man, which was probably one of the biggest books that he put out. It was a very interesting comic book. It was basically an undead guy who carried two like katana sabers, had an awesome hat, and a very interesting kind of character. And he actually, I think, sold the rights and made a video game with that character for the Sega Genesis back in the 90s. And to see like something like that happen for a person in the Akron, Canton area, I was blown away. I felt privileged to even be living within 20 miles of people doing this quality of work. And one of my friends, Brian, he inked every now and again. He would try, and he knew Bob Cross pretty well. And this is the kind of stuff they did. Really, really strong stuff. And, Brian introduced me to these guys and their comic books, and I always liked them. Never got a chance to meet them until the year 2003. Bob Cross. I guess it is Bobby Cross was at a comic book convention and role-playing convention down here in Columbus, Ohio. And I was like, I'm going to take the time to actually go meet this guy. And I did. I actually took in my portfolio. Now, at the time, my portfolio was all straight up graphic design and kind of street art kind of stuff. This really insane kind of stuff. And I took it to him. He looked at it, and we talked. We chit-chatted for quite a while. Very nice guy. Very supportive of just doing anything artistically and bullshitting. He give constructive criticism. And I was very appreciative towards Bob. I liked everything he does, and I got to look him up and see if he's still drawing. Hopefully, he is. He was really good. One of the when you go around and take your art to another artist and ask for feedback, it's fairly important that they're honest. They can say, "Hey, this is shit. Don't do this," or they won't say shit. They'll say, "Well, why don't you use a different color here?" Or "Why is it laid out like this?" Or "Why don't you go ahead and push these colors a little further?" Or "There's not much foreground. There's no background. Everything is just kind of the same." So it's important to get that kind of criticism when you're an artist and you're doing it. And I sought it out from everyone I could. Obviously, I sought it out from Aaron Archer, Chris Seaman, Robert Cross, and I did have Shepard Fairey, the guy who did Obey Giant, take a look at my portfolio in 2001. He was very nice as well, very supportive, gave me a good piece of advice, especially when it comes to color. He gave me some really good points for color. Just work with a limited palette first, and once you master using 3 or 4 colors, then go ahead and introduce more. Don't try to do too much too fast, is what he said. And I still do art. I still make channel art. I make the thumbnails for this YouTube video and all the other stuff that I do for this YouTube channel. And while I don't make money off of art anymore, I gave up doing graphic design about 5 years ago professionally. I just didn't like doing corporate graphic design anymore. My heart wasn't in it, and you can make a lot more money working in IT. And there's yes or no answers. Does your program work? Yes, great. No, okay, go back and make it work. With art and graphic design in the corporate world, you might think you have a great design, you might think you have a great layout, but to a manager or marketing director who maybe didn't go to art school, they're going to rip your piece apart, and you're going to have to go do it all over again. How annoying. I don't want to deal with that anymore. I'd rather be drawing comic books again. Maybe I will. Maybe a comic strip. Maybe I'll set my eyes a little lower here. How about I do one panel first? I'll do a one panel Far Side comic strip kind of thing. If I can get that done, then maybe I'll make a comic book. All right. Well, thanks for listening to me babble. Hopefully this is informative. I love all these comic books, and this is just like one fistful of comic books. I have a whole box up there full of a bunch of crappy shit. All right. Thanks, guys, and I will talk to you later.